Welcome to the Rent to Rent Success podcast, the only podcast entirely dedicated to helping you achieve rent to rent success. We talk about the ethical way to get you started in property without buying it. This is our place to inspire each other to believe bigger, to be bolder, and to be game changers for good. Property investors and sisters Stephanie and Nicky Taylor are your guides on this exciting ride. Let's start up the engines and get ready to fly. Hello. It's Stephanie here, and welcome to episode 26 of Ask the Angels, where we answer your rent-to-rent questions. If you have a question that you would like me to answer, go to renttorentsuccess.com/ask and record your question there for me to answer for you here. You can just do an audio recording, so it's super easy. Today, we have a question from John, and here's John's question. He says, I'm struggling to put offers to the landlords that I've spoken with so far without insulting them. The ones that I've spoken with all seem to want way too much for the houses, and it just doesn't stack for me. The profit is close to zero sometimes. Is it just a numbers game? He says. Okay, John, I think, yes, making offers can be tricky for beginners. The crucial thing to remember is that we're offering the net rent. So what do I mean by the net rent, and how is it different to the gross rent? The net rent is what a landlord would get after all the costs that they're currently paying, which you would start paying when you take over on a rent-to-rent basis. So what your offer has to really set out clearly is the difference. So although the net rent that you're offering the landlord looks less than the gross rent a landlord's currently getting from a letting agent or from self-managing, actually, when you take into account all the management costs and the bills that they're paying and the costs of voids, your offer is often more than the net amount a landlord would have in their pocket at the end of the day. And they have less hassle with you. So how do we explain all that? So if a landlord has a property to let for £2,000 and is paying all the bills, it's only the £2,000 that is very clear in her mind. The cost of all the bills and what she actually receives after all the bills and empty rooms and everything is not clear in her mind. So when you make an offer of £900 or £1,000, she wonders, where's the other £1,000 gone? So your offer will need to clearly show how it compares to what she's receiving now after all her costs, which you're going to take on. So for example, we put in our offer email message that management costs are typically 10% plus VAT. But the management costs that landlords are actually paying are actually between 15 and 20% of typically between 15 and 20% of gross rent, because agents have other fees such as tenant fine fees, maintenance surcharge fees, sometimes inventory fees, all different kinds of fees which are hidden in terms of they're not in that headline 10% plus VAT, but they're added on to the various different services. So landlords are actually often paying more than they think simply for the management. We also include in the offer email all the other costs a landlord would pay that we would now be paying. For example, council tax, minor maintenance, utilities, Wi-Fi, TV license, cleaning and gardening. We also highlight in there the costs of voids. Voids are empty rooms, and we are able to manage properties keeping voids to almost zero. But many landlords and letting agents are not managing their properties in this way, and so they have higher voids. So it's just a case of educating the landlords Because as I said earlier, many landlords, it's so important to get this, many landlords have no idea what their net rent is until we walk through that process with them. And to really understand a landlord's net rent, it's important to listen a lot and ask the right questions. At the viewing, and even when the landlord first calls me on the phone, we go into the costs. The phone call is a great time because when somebody calls you, they're really motivated. They picked up the phone that day to talk to you for a particular reason. And it's usually something's gone wrong. If they were 100% happy with the management that they currently have, whether it's a letting agent or whether they're self-managing, they wouldn't have called you. So in that call, after they talk to me about the house, I ask if it's okay to ask them a few questions about the house. And at that time, I go into it. What rent are they currently getting? If there are any problems, is it all tenanted? What their utility costs are, and so on and so on. I go through it all. And because of all of the listening that I do on that conversation, I'm able to put it in the email when I'm making an offer, and I'm able to explain to them why our offer is actually better than what they're getting or what they would be getting from a letting agent. Secondly, you want to explain to a landlord how your service differs from the experience they're currently having. They're speaking to you, as I say, because they're not 100% happy. It's important to listen to find out why. Your service as a rent-to-rent business will include some or all of the following: a refurbishment of their property. Obviously, you only include this if this is what you're doing. Many times the landlord themselves will be paying for the refurbishment. So that's not something you want to highlight there. But if you're contributing to the refurbishment, do make sure that or if you're managing the refurbishment, do include that. The main things that they get: guaranteed rent every single month. So powerful. Total peace of mind for the next 5 years or for the next 3 years, however long your contract will be. Total freedom from tenant management. Every landlord, or most landlords certainly, want that. No more utility bills. We are going to pay all the bills. All minor maintenance managed and paid for by us, and our team ensuring that your property is professionally managed and maintained 24/7. So make sure you highlight the ones that you deliver, and especially the relevant ones to that particular landlord. What do I mean by the relevant ones? For example, if a landlord tells you that he's self-managing and he's fed up with calls from tenants, highlight the fact that you'll be managing all the calls from tenants. So he won't have to get involved or spend any time on those anymore. If a landlord is complaining that she's paying too much in letting agent fees and there's so much surcharges on the maintenance and she's paying £50 for a light bulb to be changed, then highlight that there'll be no surcharges on maintenance, and that even if you are paying minor maintenance, that will be paid for by us, and that any maintenance that she pays for will be paid for at cost. So in summary, you want to do two main things. Number one, you want to clearly show how your offer compares to the net rent that they're currently receiving. And number two, you want to clearly show how your service exceeds the experience that they're currently having. So it's a win-win for the landlords, and you need to show that very clearly. Or if you're delivering to agents, you also need to show that very clearly. Now, if you're with us in the Rent to Rent Kickstarter program, you'll have the When Landlords Call checklist with exactly all the questions to ask when landlords call you and why we ask those specific questions. And that's in M4.6A. And you'll also have the Irresistible Offers for Landlords template, which shows you how to put all this together in a way which really gets results. It's compelling and it shows the true value of what you offer, which may appear less good on the service. It may appear lower, but actually it's often higher and the landlords are better off. So we need to show all that. And this template shows you how. And that's M5.6A. And then we've got our Irresistible Offers for Agents template, because there are some differences to what you would say to a landlord to what you would say to a letting agent. And that's at M5.6B. Honestly, the offer email templates alone are worth the Rent to Rent Kickstarter program fee. That's what so many of our Kickstarters tell us. So I want to thank you, John, for asking that question. Now, you're all here with me at the end of this episode, so I know you enjoy listening. I love listening to, and I especially love listening to audiobooks on Audible. So I'm excited that we now have our Rent to Rent Success book on Audible. And you can, if you're not already a member, you can get a free 30-day membership and listen to Rent to Rent Success absolutely free at renttorentssuccess.com/audible, AUDIBLE. And if you're already on Audible, you can use your Audible credits to listen. Nicky and I narrate that book ourselves, and we've had such great feedback on it. So I'd love you to see what you think. So hop on over to renttorentssuccess.com/audible if you'd like to listen to the Rent to Rent Success book. That is all for now. I will see you next week when we'll have another question answered for you. See you soon. Bye for now. Thank you so much for being with me here today. If you would like more, we've written the #1 best-selling book on Rent to Rent. You can find it at renttorentssuccess.com/book. Reviewers on Amazon have described it as the best Rent to Rent HMO book and also as a definitive reference guide and inspirational. Take your next step today and buy the book. You can find it at rentsuccess.com/book. And I'll see you again next time. Until then, remember, believe bigger, be bolder, be a game changer.